Yeah, I should come over in the morning and have you meditate me.
Come on. Just come be meditating.
Yeah, come on, man. Give it to me. Yeah, that was great.
Do you have a morning routine?
No.
No?
No, I used to have like a very thorough, rigid, timed routine, and now it's aimless. Yeah.
Are there certain things that you do in the morning, or you just kind of wake up and respond to the day?
Depends on... My response to the day depends on my sleep. Like today, like last night I got a bad night's sleep, and so I wake up and I'm like, oh, fuck. Okay. Other days I feel more, like excited, you know, but sleep for me is really hard and can, in ebbs and flows. And so my morning routine depends on that. Like how much energy I have. Like mornings like this, I wake up and I'm just trying to kind of like get become alive almost.
So are there certain things that you do to become alive, or do you, like when you're sleep deprived, like is there something you do to get yourself going? Like I'm just curious, like what kind of things you like to do in the morning when...
Depends on the motivation and how much, like, sometimes when I'm sleep deprived I'll be like, alright Sky, like you gotta get your ass up, and so I'll go for a walk or a run, and then I'll move my body a little bit, whether that's like literally like some push-ups and jumping jacks, or like shake my body, you know, and do some breathing exercises, and that helps a lot. I mean, the past few days I've gone to Portal, which is like the sauna cold plunge place, and I mean that helps. Or I've gone to the gym and moved my body, even just subtly, even just going running a little bit at the gym and then getting in some hot water, like the hot tub or the sauna.
Sure.
And like that like resets my physical body, you know. But other times I like this morning I just feel this like crunchy, unmotivated kind of like, oh, like fuck, I'm in this body and it's not feeling good. And I don't have that, there's that like block of like motivation to really shake it off. And so I mean I play music every morning, which is nice, but sometimes that feels almost like a automatic. I'm like, it's kind of easier to just do that than stretch, like meditate, move my body.
Sure. You
know, it's at a certain, like now I'm kind of copping out of what I know would be best for me.
Sure.
Yeah.
So something you said caught my ear, that like that motivation to like do the thing, like to do the movement, to do the thing that like is gonna shake it off, that's been really up for me lately. This like I've been doing this 6-week program called Positive Intelligence, which is all about like catching the thought patterns that they call it like the saboteurs, the unhelpful habits and loops and like ways of thinking, and that like it can be like the heaviness or whatever that is, and just training the muscle to like shift, to like just do the thing that you know is going to be good. And it's fascinating because I'll catch it, and I'm really trying to engage and just like strengthen that muscle lately, but there's this crazy resistance that I'm like just the other day I'm like in this heaviness, and part of this program is like when you catch it, and I'm like, okay, there's the victim mentality. I see you. You're supposed to celebrate. You're supposed to like really like let yourself just like, woohoo, I caught it, yeah, all right, and like go like 10 seconds of like celebration. Like the bigger celebration, the better.
Yeah.
And the point of like, one, you're reinforcing the catching of it because you're celebrating, you're giving like dopamine from that, but also the act of being silly and celebrating, it automatically like shifts me out of the funk, right? And there's something about it that's like just the other, I could see it. I'm like, I don't want to celebrate. I don't want to do that because I know it's going to shift me actually.
Yeah.
But there's this like weird like I don't want to do that thing that I know is going to shift me out of this. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
What is that part?
It's crazy.
It's like kind of like being, I'm getting something out of this, you know? Like, no.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, man. I mean, I think we want to stay in. You want to stay in the emotion that you're in, almost like if you're angry, you kind of want to get more angry, you know. And like when we're really happy, we're like, oh, I just want to be like, this is it. Don't bring me down, man. You're like, there's something there.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we want to stay in it, you know. Even you, like a smart motherfucker, and you know, a positive guy. It's funny to hear that when you're in that mode, you still want to kind of...
It feels like there's this part of me, and this is something I've been chewing on lately. It's like, it feels very true. It just feels real, right? And so I'm a big fan of like being true to like what is actually, what's my actual experience.
Yeah.
And so when I'm in that, it's like, well, this feels real, and if so, like to celebrate feels false, feels fake. But I'm trying, like, part of this program is like to realize or to like get some separation, be like, that's not me. That's a part of me. That's a voice that I've taken on. That's like, that's the victim, or that's the hyperachiever, or that's the judge, right? These like saboteur parts, to be like, okay, that's actually, there's a lie that they've come in the back door and are now like, no, this is my voice. This is me. I'm upset and I think this is bad, as opposed to, oh, the judge thinks this is bad. So there's some sort of like separation that helps.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still kind of wrestling with it. I'm curious
how they're distinguishing the you and the saboteur or the other parts. Because how I could also say like, well, who's to say the positive happy dude isn't also a persona that is being put on? Like, who is the you?
It's a good point.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't know.
Maybe there's an essence that is beyond feeling and how your emotional state and what you're putting on, that is just Devon, and it's pure, probably, and not like...
Yeah. I mean, the one avenue that they talk about this is like, if you look at like kids are much more in their essence. Like, they're just like free and open and wild. And right, so part of this is like, I actually have a couple pictures of me when I was a kid that I put up in my little office space, that I'm like tuning into like, who is that little being? Yeah. Before he learned these habits, these masks, these filters, these like, oh, that part of me isn't allowed, or you know, it's like the saboteurs are old patterns of survival that I've learned, like, okay, it's not safe for me to be that way, or if I act this way, then I get the love that I kind of want or need, right? Like, there's like something I'm getting out of being the victim or whatever.
Totally.
And so like that feels like there's an answer maybe to that question in that aspect, is like, my pure essence was when I was a kid. It's like, I wasn't being like, oh, I'm tired and something's wrong with me. You know, it was like, there was no extra story. There was no extra, like, I mean, a kid can go from, and dogs are like this too, right? You can go from like being sad and like something really hurts to, this is the best moment in my life. Like that. Because there's no resistance. There's no story of like,
Which is I think the truth of being a human is that the change happens like that. There's not a whole lot of processing that needs to happen to go from one to the other at the essence of it. But I think as complex, like, adults, we have all this stuff. We're like, well, I'm not ready yet to feel that
happy.
I'm
not ready to feel happy.
To forgive you. I'm like, no, it's going to take a lot longer. It's like, well, maybe it actually doesn't.
Doesn't need
at the essence,
Yeah.
And when you were sharing that, I was thinking of the kid. The kid also gets mad and says, I hate you, and fuck you. Maybe they don't say fuck you. And so they let out they also just like, the emotion is so raw and real. Like, it's interesting, you know, the idea of noticing the negative feeling that you're feeling, and then being like, okay, I noticed it, yay. And like as a kid, we're feeling the negative feeling so honestly. You know, there's not the other story going on. Yeah.
It's like pure and it burns through.
It just right through it.
Yeah.
Like an animal, you know, they get they're upset and then they shake
it's
it
like
off.
a dog will be like
Yeah.
and then back to like, oh, everything's fine.
Yeah, playing fetch.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's no residual because it burns hot and it's done.
Yeah, it's like totally the truth
Yeah.
of what's up.
Huh.
Yeah. That's cool. Huh.
Sometimes that burn lasts quite a bit longer for children than it does for animals, though.
It's like,
right. They still have a piece of that wanting to stay. I don't know if they do it consciously or what, but they still sometimes want to stay in that powerful negative emotion, whether it's anger or fear or sadness. Like, I think there's something innately human about feeling these strong feelings and sort of attaching ourselves to it on a deep level that prevents us from wanting to get out of it. Because I know when I'm angry, there's a little bit of a high that that I get from being angry, and I'm like, I'm so angry, and it's simultaneously painful and pleasurable in a really weird way. Until I decide, really at a core level, that I don't want to be angry anymore, it's really easy to stay there.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's hard to see your way out when you're in it.
Yes.
It's like, well, this is
red hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said the powerful emotion, like, and I think that's true. You said when the kid is in that powerful emotion, and it is powerful, and maybe they also feel. I mean, you have kids, so you could speak to it more than I could. But like, do you think they feel that power dynamic of like, oh, I'm in control, or like, oh, this is because when they're angry or sad, or they're kind of able to get a response. They're able to maybe control the environment in a different way.
I think it's an attempt at getting what they want.
Yeah.
It's a reaction, but it's an attempt at trying to get us to do something that she wants. Or like, for example, say I do something that she doesn't like, and she'll get angry, fiercely angry, to try and get what she wants. Like, I want a cookie. No, sorry, it's 9 a.m. I'm not going to give you a cookie. You need to eat something healthy first. There can be a huge tantrum that ensues.
Yeah.
And yeah, there is a power dynamic there because I'm ultimately the one who's making the decision. And, that could last 5 minutes, or it could last half an hour, it could last an hour, depending on what state the child is in, too. It's really interesting. Totally. Like, for an adult, I can make the decision to change, and whether or not I change and how easy it is to change is dependent on a number of factors. But for a kid, they don't have the context that I have to realize, oh, I can choose this. Yeah. Or, oh, I am choosing to be angry right now. Like, I try and have these conversations with my daughter, like, maybe not in the moment, because that's not conducive to helping it, but later I'm like, do you realize that strong anger that you were feeling was a choice? In her little 4-year-old mind, probably not, but I'm trying to plant seeds, right? To make her understand, maybe sooner than I did, because I didn't really understand that until I was like 25, that, oh, it's a choice how you react. And I think what you're talking about with this positive intelligence thing is to hone in on the decision, because it might feel like a reaction, and you can catch that reaction, but it's a choice to stay there or not. And you're tuning in closer and closer and closer to the start of that reaction so that you can choose a different way. Because sure, sometimes anger is useful, keeps us safe. It may or may not help us to get our point across, but it's always a choice whether we're going to get angry. I think anger is a good example of that. Something like sadness or depression, you might have to approach a different way. I don't know, what is the positive intelligence framework say for an emotion like that?
For sadness and it's more like choosing to love yourself in that moment. Actually this week in the program, it's all about like empathy, self-empathy, and empathy towards others. And so it's like tuning into that young part of me that's feeling hurt, or whatever part of me that's actually feeling hurt, and just like taking a moment. Like, the step is like giving yourself a hug, or just like giving yourself that love that like something is hurting and needing some love. And so and I mean, what's coming through right now is like, so there's this idea between the the saboteur brain and the sage brain. And the sage brain is like, it's not about not feeling the emotions or just like being like, I'm just going to be positive now. It's not like bypassing the negative, but it's like being in that seat of choice of like, okay, what am I going to do? What do I need to do here? And maybe, yeah, there's pain here. So, okay, I need to figure out how to love myself. What would be the most loving thing? Or like, this isn't necessarily from this program, but this kind of like my interpretation or how I'm using it. Like with anger, it's like maybe I can't just go straight to celebration and just be like, all right, everything's good now. But there's something that's like, can I move the energy in a positive way? Like consciously being like, okay, man, I'm feeling anger. Like I'm gonna go hit the punching bag and like consciously fire it out and like clean the furnace out by burning it. Or like just last week, Elise and I, we were just feeling like this heaviness, whatever, and I saw it and I was like, I don't want to do the celebrate thing. I don't want to do it. And what we ended up doing was Elise and I got into this like fake kung fu fight for like 10 minutes where we're just like and we're like moving that energy and being loud and expressive.
Yeah.
But it was more true to the energy we were feeling. It was like, I'm feeling frustrated. I don't want to just be celebrating.
Yeah.
But there's still a way that I'm like, can I bring some lightness?
Uh-huh.
Can I bring like, okay, this isn't all of me. This isn't the whole universe.
Yeah.
Right? And but let it play out. It's a part that needs to move and just let it play out, but also just like having some fun with it.
Yeah.
And like, so in the last week, Elise and I have gotten into like maybe 3 or 4 just little like there's some tension moments and we're just like playing with it. And just last night I was like, I'm having fun fighting with you lately. Like it's and it's not even like fight is like too big of a word because it's so we're just like the energy's there and we're like there's tension here, but we're being light with it and like moving it and also smiling at each other while we're doing it. And I'm like, this is somehow fun. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers totally. I mean, like it's, there's like different steps with maybe hot anger and then like cold, heavy sadness. But I think for me, it's like noticing it. And even just like, so like in the beginning, it's like just taking a breath, right? Like it's so easy to like, okay, I'm just going to take a breath and feel my body. Coming back to like what's real. Okay, my body feels like this, my breath feels like this. Okay, now what do I need to do? Like, all right, I need to give myself a hug. I need to go give her a hug. I need to ask for a hug, whatever it is, right? Like, yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't realize you were kung fu fighting. I heard the noises and I.
Did you?
What are they doing over there?
We were having a full on like with like. Playing out the like English dubbed over voice, like bring it on, bitch. like we were like just fully going into it.
That's good.
It was good.
Man.
Highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Fake kung fu fight. This could
give
save
it a
the
try.
world.
Yeah, this really could.
This
We
could
just,
be the
if we
modality.
fake fighted.
Yeah.
Instead of real fighting. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. When you're speaking, I'm thinking about how important it is to feel the feeling. Like the acknowledgement of it and the celebration of noticing it and like being conscious of like, oh, this is what's coming up. I'm feeling angry. Noticing it. It's so easy for us to feel something and not actually like consciously look at it. And when you're speaking to like this positive idea of turning things, like coming back to this homeostasis of like a good positive floor. I part of me doesn't love that. I'm like, I don't want to have to flip everything and make it good. But I do want to move through the thing. Or if I'm feeling angry, the anger is there for a reason. I'd like to, if I'm in my like highest state, I want to look at the anger and move through the anger and not ignore it or try to override it. And with any feeling too, I'm like, if I'm sad, it's probably good. I should probably feel the sadness,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if that's what you're speaking to is just override the thing, you know?
Yeah.
But like back to the child feels the feeling. You know, they're not like, oh, I shouldn't feel this way. It's like they're just feeling. And it's probably more nuanced than that too, because everyone is different. I think some people overfeel, you know, they're angry and then they just overfeel angry.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's actually not the appropriate amount of anger. That's actually you're almost self-indulging in your anger.
Yeah.
Other people suppress the anger
Yeah.
and go, everything's fine. It's like, well, actually, you probably need to feel it. The other person probably needs to appropriately look at the situation.
Yeah.
I numb out. So, like, for me, I need to feel.
Mm-hmm.
It's good for me to feel. You know, like, what I don't need is to check myself and go, like, is that really real? It's like, no, I probably actually just need to feel and notice what's coming up for me. So it feels also very personal. You know, different people probably have different ways of, or different, maybe different things that they need to look at within themselves.
Yeah.
So that's my spiel about that.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I would have to agree, because I think the more you repress something, the stronger it gets, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're repressing your anger, and this isn't what you're saying to do, but if you repress it, then it's going to keep building and building and building until you explode. Right? And I'm the same way as you. Like, if I don't feel that feeling, my equilibrium gets thrown off. Like, you have to feel the feeling. And my guess is that this book isn't trying to get you to bypass the feeling. It's just getting you to understand how to cope with big feelings better. How to integrate those big feelings. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
And if it's not, then...
No, yeah, it's just, there's a lot here to, like, chew on. For me, too. I mean, it's nuanced, right?
Yeah.
And I think what comes up for me is, it's not about bypassing. It's about just being in the driver's seat.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I'm just in my animal self and feeling everything, then that doesn't seem helpful. It's more like, okay, if it's here, I want to consciously feel it, right? Because I can be walking around and like, I can be like wallowing for days. And part of me, I'm like, well, I'm just feeling it. I'm feeling sad, so I'm feeling sad.
Yeah.
But like, there's a different seat that I can find in my psyche that's like, okay, Devon, you've been feeling this for 2.5 days now, or whatever, or like a day, or you know, longer than it needs to be felt, or something. But like, I'm not really like consciously working with it or consciously feeling it, or like, okay, like you're feeling sad, so go scream. Do something to like be in the seat of choice of engaging with it, or something like that. Like, and I think a big part of this modality is like, it's literally coming back to your senses, like as opposed to like, there's a lot that happens in here, like, I'm feeling it, there's this like story and like heaviness and stuckness and rumination, as opposed to like, okay, that's happening, that those thoughts are happening, let's just come back to like, okay, what does this feel like, what does my breath feel like, what am I hearing, like coming back to the sensory animal that we are, like, okay, here's what's real, I'm in this present moment, and now I can choose, like, okay, do I need to do something? Do I need to take a nap? Do I need to punch a punching bag? Do I need to go for a run? Like, what's I haven't gone to the gym, I haven't moved my body, okay, let's do that. Right? So it's like sending in that like, the sage is like, I think the positive element is like, this is a gift, this moment, like whatever it is, like I'm going to turn this into a gift. If there's pain here, great. How can I make that pain a gift? And I need to feel it. I need to like engage with it and do something with it.
It's almost like you're being the parent to yourself. Because when a kid's throwing a tantrum about one thing, they might actually just be hungry. And as adult humans, I do think we don't take the moment often to go, what's really going on? And the emotion might not actually be reality. It's like, if you've been sad for 2 days about or just feeling this feeling for a few days, it's probably helpful to go, is this really what's going on? Like let's come back here. Like, what's happening? And maybe you're also, I mean, if to be in something like that, maybe you're not really fully feeling it and feeling it through to the end.
Yeah.
It's just subtly there. Like
Yeah.
anxiety will just subtly be there because it's not being really looked at or,
Yeah.
you know.
I think you're right that what you said earlier, like some people probably need to feel it more. Some people probably you're overfeeling it. You're overindulging, right? So there is that
Right.
like, there's an interesting balance. But and for me, like one of the saboteurs is the victim, and it was kind of surprised me though. Like I took this assessment and I'm like, oh wow, that scored pretty high. Like I feel like I try to do a lot to not be a victim or not come across as a victim.
Yeah.
But it's subtle, and it's like that's like the shadow part that I'm not admitting to myself. Like, oh, I'm indulging in this victim saboteur.
Yeah.
And all these saboteurs, there's like it's actually a strength that's just being overused. And so the victim, the strength is like I'm really good at like tracking my own emotions and my own like sensations and wanting to honor that. That's what makes me a good coach. Is like I can like really be like, oh wow, I totally just noticed like some clenching when you said that. Was there something there for you? Like I'm like tuned into my own system enough, and I can like track like, oh wow, I'm feeling that, and that's probably because this thing happened when I was a kid. Like I can like see like the pathways or feel them or whatever. And so there's this like circuitry that I'm tuned into, and that's a strength. But the victim is like, I'm overindulging or I'm overusing that strength. So I'm like, well, I feel tired and I feel a little grumpy, so something must be wrong.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then there's this loop of like, well, what's wrong? It's like, well, I'm feeling bad. Well, why are you feeling bad? Well, because something's wrong. Right? And so like, there's this like overuse of this like, it's like, yeah, okay. But if I can step out of it and take a couple breaths and be like,
Yeah.
okay, what's real? Yeah. Okay, I feel a little funky, but like, are we okay? You're doing good. Like, give myself a little love. Give myself like, you're doing a good job. Like, yeah, life is hard sometimes. Like,
Right.
let's go for a walk.
Yeah.
Cool. You know, it's like, and it is like that parenting. Like, okay, I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. You're feeling some stuff. Great. Let's go listen to the birds.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Like, yeah.
It's so easy to become identified with the strong emotion. Like when you're in that, if you're reacting to it, it becomes who you are in that moment.
Yeah.
And what I like about this framework, it really relates to like the Taoist perspective of becoming a watcher. You learn how to watch what's happening. And when you get caught up and you become identified with the feeling and that becomes you, then it feels like, oh, there's no way out. I'm just here and this sucks and it feels shitty.
Yeah.
But if you learn how to watch it, you can still feel it. You feel it, but that's like the sage mind, right? You're feeling it, but you're also watching it and realizing, well, this actually isn't me. This is just a state I'm experiencing. And I have the choice to shift it or not. You know, maybe I need to stay down there for a while and ruminate and figure out maybe there is something wrong. Maybe I do need to change something about my life or my behavior. Maybe this is a sign that's stimulating action within me, because that's definitely been the case in my experience. A lot of the time is like a need arises through a shitty feeling, oftentimes. And that shitty feeling is there to give you, if you're in tune with it and you don't become overly identified with it, to give you a perspective of like, okay, something needs to change. And if I don't change it, I'm going to keep perpetuating this heaviness that takes over me, right? So we have to learn how to become watchers of our internal state, and that's where the choice comes. And sometimes you got to just feel fully for as long as you need to fucking feel, because then that doesn't feed that repressive side of it, right?
Yeah. Totally. Totally. Yeah, the choice. I feel like that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
The having choice, which is kind of what I feel like this is.
Yeah.
A part of it. It's just like, okay, I'm able to see this and know that I'm choosing this or not, rather than it just happening to me and running my life. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, I'm angry and just it's happening and I have no control. Versus like, oh, I'm angry and okay, I need to be angry for a bit. All right, like, yeah, because it's in the emotions are fine. Like, their emotions are great. They're all good. There's no bad emotion.
Yeah.
But when one takes over and it's like, now it's me.
Yeah.
Oof.
I think I really like what you said there. It's like the identification with that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that is me, and that's all of me. That's the totality.
I'm sad.
I
am.
Yeah. I am
sadness.
sadness. I am absolute sadness. That is all of me.
It's like, no, I'm feeling sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I probably need. I think I need to feel sad for a bit. You know, that's very different than like, I'm sad. I'm sadness. Like, oh, woe is me. Like, yeah.
I wanted to ask you about your sleep because that's a really common challenge for a lot of people, and I experience really good sleep. I've never had a problem sleeping. So no, I mean, I'm not saying it to brag. I'm just saying I want to know what your experience is like. Because when people have sleep issues, it really does. It's one of the most fundamental things that you can do to function well and be happy and move through the world. So I just want to hear a little bit about what you think prevents you from having healthy sleep.
Dude, it sucks. It's the worst.
How long has that been the case too?
Well, I'm doing well for myself the past year and a half because I actually started taking antidepressants for sleep because my dad took them and it worked for him and I had someone else say it worked for them because I had 2 years where I didn't sleep. Like,
wow.
Oh man, when I say I didn't sleep, like the most I would get in a night is like 2 to 4 hours, and that was a good night. There were nights, 3, 4, 5 nights back to back where I wouldn't sleep at all.
Really?
And I was going insane for 2 years. And I can remember the 3 nights that I got normal sleep. It's vivid. The 3 nights. I was in San Diego visiting a friend, staying over, and for some reason I slept. And it's like, I was alive again, you know? And man, the feeling of not sleeping is like, I am just gone. It's like, I'm just like off, you know? Like whatever's been turned off. And for me, it's just, I can't stop thinking. My brain will keep me awake and I can't seem to turn it off. And at the time when I was having my bad sleep, I would meditate. I would do all these things. I was trying different physical exercise and stretching, and I was really trying to have good sleep hygiene, and I met with a sleep specialist and did all these things, and nothing worked. I took Ativan for months at night, which is basically Xanax, to zonk me out, but then it stopped working, and that was nothing is worse than not sleeping all night having taken Ativan.
Oh, we used to take that to get high.
Yeah, it gets you high. Yeah, but then like the not having slept and feeling this I'd feel insane. So I was just experimenting and trying shit out, but then the antidepressants changed it. Low dose 5 milligrams, which is basically nothing. Like the doctor who prescribed it was like, this you probably won't feel. I mean, you won't feel this at all, and all within a few weeks I started sleeping again.
Amazing.
It's still hard. I mean, and that's where like nights like this past week I'll just like kind of lie awake and be in and out of sleep and not really like getting that like real sleep.
The deep sleep.
Yeah, and but I'm grateful that I found something because when I was in it, I felt like I'll never be a normal person again. You know, like it's just hard to function. And I don't feel like when I don't sleep, I don't feel things. Like my emotional center is just checked off. So like I'm like right now, I'm like if you ask me how I feel, I'm like I feel nothing. I just don't even. It's not even there. Like emotion is just like the first thing to go, and so I like feel. I want to feel, you know. So I like miss them. Like I want to feel well rested, so I can just be like, oh, I'm happy, or oh, I'm sad. You know, I want to like feel something, and it just gets turned off.
Where do you think that originated?
The sleeplessness. It started when I was a teenager. I think one thing is I think it's biological in some way because my dad and mom both have really hard time sleeping.
Okay.
My dad is like, I would have to like so many memories of my dad like yelling through the wall when he'd hear me like tiptoeing to the kitchen because he was such a light sleeper. Like, Skyler! And I'm like, oh shit! Like I was like light, you know, I was so light on my toes because he was such a light sleeper. And so I think one is just like fucking got a bad hand. But then 2, My teen years, something shifted. I don't know. I mean, it's ironically when the connection to my mother changed. You know, I stopped, she stopped, like, it was like this comforting, like, oh, mom, like, would put me to sleep or just, like, come in and, like, kiss me goodnight. And there was this, like, kind of, nurturing, like, presence. And then I was like, okay, mom, I'm an adult now.
You're like, I'm 16,
I'm 16.
Mom.
Stop cuddling with me in bed. Yeah.
I don't need to read corduroy anymore, Mom.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, like I could tuck myself in. So I think something shifted there, and I started doing drugs, and like something, I don't know, something changed. But I still haven't quite pinpointed what it is. I do think I sleep better with someone next to me.
With someone next to you?
Mm-hmm. Like with like having that like other person and other body, like the like regulation, the comfort.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you have any insight into how your parents, like when you were like the first 3 years of your life, how they put you to bed?
I don't exactly know, but I can guess based off my mom that I was right next to her. You
co-slept with her?
I must have. Yeah. I can't imagine being in a crib.
Interesting.
I think, yeah. But I had a hard time. I was really connected to my mom. Like, she would put me to bed every night, and I would have a hard time when she would leave. Mm. I didn't want to be alone. Mm-hmm. And there might be, and sleep was hard, even as a kid. I think, it wasn't easy. Mm. Yeah, so there's something that just, like, doesn't click, which is crazy, because it's such a natural thing. Sleep is like eating food. It's like saying I have a hard time breathing, like sleep should just be this like automatic thing. Yeah. And even when I was at the Yellow Deli, which is no tech, no alcohol, no caffeine, working every day with my body in the sun, in community, no screens, couldn't sleep.
Wow. So it goes much deeper than just you were doing all the right things.
Perfect. I mean, anything that you could possibly point at was gone, and I still was struggling. So there's some, it was like deeper than my surroundings, I felt better because I was doing all those things, so the sleep didn't affect me as much, but
you were healthier in other areas, but then still the sleep was lacking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'd love to offer you a little perspective here. I don't know if it'll be helpful or not, but it's just what I'm thinking in the moment, because you said it might be biological, and your parents, or your dad in particular, had that issue too. Mm-hmm. And I would push that a little bit further, because I'm of the belief that we are multi-layered beings, and our biology is like the densest layer of who we are. Mm-hmm. It's the layer of vibration that's vibrating the slowest, right? And we could be like, super spiritual is vibrating at the highest, right? Mm-hmm. And we come into this world with certain karma, I believe. We come in, we carry things over from our past life, or if you want to look at it biologically, your dad or maybe his dad or whatever had issues sleeping, and that was locked in his biology, it was locked in his DNA. And then when you were born, that epigenetic change was locked into your DNA. So it's maybe it's something that nothing happened to you as a kid, nothing happened to you as a teenager, but it's just something that's been carried over. Yeah. And if you can break that cycle, I mean, I don't know if you're going to have kids or not, but if you can break that somehow, or change your DNA or change your karma to prevent that from being passed on to the next generation, then that's like breaking a chain in the link. Yeah. And so what I'm intuitively feeling, and I don't know if it's true or not, maybe somewhere along your family line, somebody had this sleep disruption, and they didn't figure it out in their lifetime. They lived their entire life with this sleep issue, and that was carried on to the next generation, and the next generation. And now you're carrying it. And it sounds like you're attempting to, fix this. It's a detrimental problem, it sounds like. And you're trying all these different things to figure out, okay, how can I sleep better? Maybe there's a root of the problem. Maybe you'll never know why, but I believe you can heal that. You know, I don't know how, but you're trying to heal it. You're trying to get to the bottom of it, and I believe you can and will. And at least you found some relief with that pharmaceutical that helps you sleep some nights. But I'm curious if any of that resonates or what that makes you think.
Well, it makes sense to me because the route doesn't feel clear. I'm like, yeah, there's something being passed on. I would, that feels right. Like, it doesn't feel like it's mine necessarily, because there isn't this obvious marker in my life. And I imagine it wasn't something that was looked at thoroughly by my dad or his past. You know, like they probably weren't looking at it the way I am and trying to figure it out and work through the problem. So I hope I can pass on a different state of being to my kids. And I'd like to not have to rely on pharmaceutical. I don't want to be taking this drug. I mean, it numbs me out a little bit more, which is already my state of being. You know, like antidepressants are just anti-feel drugs, anti-emotional drugs, like, and I don't love that. But it's scary to think of like going back, you know, like it's still there. This like fear of like, what if I go back to that place, you know? Yeah.
Have you ever tried anything like a guided psychedelic therapy or ayahuasca or anything like that?
No, but I've had people share that transformed their sleep in particular. You know. But that is, drugs are, like, doing drugs like that are a little intimidating to me.
Of course. Yeah. There's a lot of fear there when you're stepping over that threshold.
Yeah.
I only ask because in my personal experience, I've had dramatic changes that I feel like changed me on a DNA biological level that I'll never be the same again.
Yeah.
And they're a technology that's been used for thousands of years to do exactly that, to break these karmic chains, to break these things that have been passed down to us that aren't ours.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, maybe something like that, or some hypnotherapy or something, I don't know.
Yeah. I think it will probably happen in my lifetime. I will do that, you know? Because I'm curious, even what we spoke of last time about, you know, reaching that other level of connection to, you know, the unknown or God, or like, I am curious about that, and curious how to break this cycle of sleeplessness and also just like whatever's going on in my life. And I'm curious, you know, this almost like disruptive, like shaking of ayahuasca or drug or, you know, medicine like that. And I'm intimidated.
It's scary.
It's very scary.
Like, I think of like other just, you know, bad trips. I just think of bad trips I've had on other drugs and being like, ooh, am I going to choose to do that, you know? And I know it's an intense drug. It's not chill.
Sure.
No one comes back from their ayahuasca journey and is like, oh, it was nice. You know? They're like, it was a lot. And it changed my life.
Sure.
So, yeah.
I imagine those bad trip experiences, and maybe you can tell me, were they in an intentional setting or was it in more of a recreational?
It was recreational.
Yeah.
And they're all like, they all make sense. I'm like, yeah, of course. I was around people I didn't know or love or trust, or we probably did a drug that wasn't the drug we got.
Right.
You know? And like...
I think that fear comes from a certain level of programming too, that we're all kind of given without our choice as well. Like, we're living in America, we're living in modern society, and our generation has been fed from a young age that those things are bad, and that if you do them, you're going to go crazy, or you're going to fly out a window and kill yourself, right? All these fear stories that have been pushed on us.
Yeah.
And a lot of other cultures, they don't grow up with that. They grow up with it as a medicine and as a technology, and so that's their programming and imprint. There's less fear, I'm assuming, there, just about the experience in general. I mean, I'm in the same generation as you. I still feel that fear, or that like, ooh, I don't know, before I do it, when I choose to do it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that plays into it a lot. And I think there's something to be said about crossing that threshold of fear.
Yeah.
Like, when you're really afraid of something and you do it anyway, we've talked about this before, almost immediately after you drink the cup, you're like, okay, I did it. The fear level drops.
Yeah.
And you just allow the experience to happen more so.
Totally.
But especially in an intentional setting where you're with somebody who's been working with this plant or technology for their entire life, they've been trained their entire life, they've had things passed on to them through their experience, there's a certain level of safety there that can be felt that will allow you to go deeper into the experience. And I'm of the opinion that there are no bad trips, there are just sometimes hard ones.
Right.
And the hard ones are usually the ones that you need the most.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know. I'm not trying to push psychedelics on you. I'm just thinking about this. Cause
Actually, we're going to do some right now.
yeah. Imbibe the Mystery.
Yeah.
You got your cup, right?
You should be feeling it about now.
Imbibe the Mystery. That's right. Yeah, what are we at? We're at...
We just got another 10 hours of this podcast. Yeah.
Oh, man.
It is interesting to be in this like tiny little subculture where everyone I know has done ayahuasca. And it's pretty chill and, commonplace. But
nowadays,
the greater culture, everyone else outside of Boulder and, the Bay Area, New York or something, these little like spots in the U.S. it's a turnout. It's like, no, you don't do that.
Still fringe.
I think of like Aaron Rodgers, a football player. I'm a Raiders fan. I watch football. He did a darkness retreat in ayahuasca. Aaron Rodgers is like a character in his own right and like actually somewhat problematic, but he got so much flack from the media for doing this. They made fun of him for the darkness retreat. Like,
really?
Oh yeah, it was a huge. I mean, every single talk show host was giving him shit for it, and I'm like, oh yeah, right. Like, we are still very fringe. This is still very niche. And still looked down on, and still thought of as like being woo woo and like, what's this crazy guy doing? Yeah.
I'm not like totally surprised, but I'm also like, I just don't understand the mentality of making fun of someone for doing a darkness retreat.
Yeah.
Because I'm really drawn to a darkness retreat.
Totally. Yeah.
There's something, and it scares me. It's just it's not drugs, but I'm just gonna sit in a dark room. Like, it's fucking scary.
It's almost scary. I'm like, wow, how long? For how
5
long?
days.
Yeah.
I can imagine telling my parents that I'm gonna do that, and like them being like, "What are you gonna do?" Like, what?
Yeah.
But that feels different than making fun of.
Yeah.
Like there's an interesting, and humans, we do this. We make fun of things that we're scared of, or we don't understand, or we're impressed by, or whatever. Like, there's so many reasons to put someone else down, but like, that one, that's hitting me in an interesting way. Like, to make fun of, like, I'm impressed. I'm like, wow, I would never do that.
Yeah, I know it's and it
speaks to me like probably that person who's making fun of is like, that scares the shit out of me.
I mean, I remember one person,
and I'm not able to recognize that scares the shit out of me.
One person saying something about like, I couldn't even be off my phone for a day, and I'm like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like, that's make fun of.
Yeah,
worthy.
Someone should look at that person and be like, "What did you just say? Like, get off your phone, dude." Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but I think it does speak to how these things which feel normal in our world. I think I've been thinking about non-monogamy and polyamory and all this. I'm like, it's not the norm at all.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at culture. Look at like, where are we seeing psychedelics and non-monogamy being portrayed in like the media in an honest way? Like, nowhere. There's no polyamorous relationship in a movie that I've seen that's healthy, and like same with like someone doing ayahuasca or someone going to like sit on the hill and do a humblecha. Like, that's not something that we see like in the broader world.
What's a humblecha? It's
like a Native American ceremony, like I don't know much about it. My friend does it. It's not something that we see out there, and it's a reminder, like, oh yeah, this is still a very small little subculture.
Totally.
Like it's, and I hope someday. I mean, God, I'd love to see a movie there. Someone's like having sex with their wife's friend, and it's fine. But every movie I've seen, that's when they get divorced. So, you know.
I feel like that we just opened up. That's the
other,
next podcast.
Yeah, that's
polyamory and
yeah.
That's an interesting. I mean, I dabbled in that for a moment, and just was like curious about it, and like said, read like Polysecure, and there's some interesting things that I think are intriguing, and there's some like philosophies behind that I like, and there's like that's a whole can of worms.
Yeah.
I'm just tracking the time.
Yeah.
We got like 10 more minutes ish, but
cool. Well,
and
no, you go.
I'm just
I'm gonna turn this one side.
tracking like this conversation is. I mean, it's just so rich. Like we've talked about positive intelligence and saboteurs and sleep and insomnia and now psychedelics, and I'm probably missing some other stuff. But like, what a
and football. I mean,
and football and Aaron Rodgers.
Come on,
yeah.
Didn't expect that. Yeah. This is great. I mean, I love chatting with you guys. We could do this for another few hours.
It's so easy. I mean, like just immediately we're just like boom, and here's this rich conversation that took us for an hour. Like, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
10 more minutes. What are we gonna do with 10 minutes? I would like to say one thing, because you brought up the book and some parts of it you were like yes and some parts no. I don't think it's better or anything like that, or that someone should do it. You know, someone should people should be in open relationship. Rather, I think it's just a sexual orientation. You know, it's just like I feel very clearly, I'm like, yeah, I will never be in a monogamous relationship. Just like I'll never date a man. Like, I am straight and I'm non-monogamous. Those feel very clear to me, and they feel like they're of the same ilk, but we don't see it that way yet. Where I'm like, I would never want someone who feels monogamous to ever feel like they have to do what I'm doing. You know, like hell no. You know, I have so many people I know where I'm like, yeah, this is absolutely not your way. And in no way is that better or worse. Just like being gay is not better or worse than, you know, but I think when it's on the fringe, you almost need to promote it and try to like I think some of these books, it feels like this is the way, you know, this is more evolved way. Yeah. Just because it's like they're trying to sell it to you. They need to shout it a little louder because it's been so hidden. Yeah. And I think the same might have been said. I've heard friends. I mean, I had a woman I was dating. Her gay best friend would talk down on her straight relationship as if we were doing something less evolved. But I kind of get it. I'm like, yeah, you've been pushed aside for so long. Yeah. Like, you kind of need to be you need to like stand up a little taller, you know? But actually, like, I don't think there's not one way that's better. Rather, it's like, I think it's great that now all options are available. Now, if you have any inclination of sexual desire for the same sex, you can actually follow that. Thank God, you know? And if you're like, oh, I'm having trouble I'm noticing that I want to be with other people and you, cool, try that. Like, it's great that we can do that now. You know, whereas it used to be like there was the one path. And if you don't follow this path, you're banished. I mean, people, crazy shit would happen. So, that's probably why I want to see it in mainstream media. Yeah. Because I want it to be normalized, you know? I want it to just be a normal thing that people can, like, do, you know? Or not do.
So you're in a polyamorous relationship currently?
Open relationship.
An open relationship. Yeah. And what does that look like for you and your partner?
So she's my primary partner. I say open, not poly, because we don't have other relationships. But we can see other people, go on dates, have sex with other people. We talk about it all. We let the person know, like, hey, I met someone or I matched with someone. Like, we have Field, which is like the open relationship dating app, basically. And we talk about it beforehand, and she likes to know certain things that I don't. You know, I'm kind of like, I don't really want to know the details, but I do want to, I want to know when you're going out. And yeah, those are kind of like the rules that we abide by. You know?
So you seem pretty comfortable with it at this point. How long have you been doing that?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
What has it brought up for you that's been really uncomfortable?
it brings up so much. Like, God, it's so much harder in some way. Like, I wish we were just monogamous. And if we were, we'd break up. Because actually, it's harder for me to be monogamous, you know? Like, that's not a fit for me. So, this way is just the way that I'm like, this is it. This is my fucking dharma. Like, all right. What it's brought up is, one, jealousy that I have to examine more deeply. But also it's freed me from the jealousy, which is wild. I met a man that she was with, and he was like the picture of a man that I would feel intimidated by. And then once I was like, oh, but you're still with me. You want to be with me, and you're sleeping with this guy. He's cool, but like you chose me. And it kind of let me release it. I'm like, oh, I don't have to be... I feel way less jealous in the general sense of like seeing other men and comparing myself. Because it almost has turned them into they're just dudes, you know? And like, I don't have to be afraid of her going out and being with someone who has something I don't have because we've done it. And I know that, and I've done it too. I've been with women that are physically different than her, or they're different personalities and this and that. And I'm like, I still love you. I choose you, you know? And it's brought up a ton of stuff around being... me following specific rules and having boundaries, you know, like there's all this, it's hard, like I want to do whatever the fuck I want. And we have to create these rules and restrictions together, you know, and that's hard for me, and it's good for me to learn, and I fuck up, and we repair, and I hurt her, and we have had to work through that, you know, and like, we're currently monogamous. We're just with each other for like, you know, about a month because I fucked up and it didn't feel safe. This is the first moment where we've done this, actually.
So, or you put like a time constraint, like let's close the gates a month just to reestablish this. Wow.
Yeah. Because the trust was broken, you know. 'Cause in a funny way, like cheating still exists.
Yeah.
You know, in a monogamous relationship, cheating is very clear. You go fuck someone else. You go on a date with someone else. You cheated.
Yeah.
For us, it's different. I actually slept with someone else, and that wasn't the issue. It was a different nuanced rule that I broke. That was very clear.
Yeah.
And I broke it. And so we need to... There's a need to reestablish, like, okay, us and trust, you know, and, like, close this... Because if it's not done well, it can feel very leaky. It can feel very, like, unsafe. If there's not that level of trust and like clarity that I'm gonna follow these rules, you know. So, yeah.
This is so interesting, dude. I really want to ask you so many more questions. I know. Like, because this is really. We explored this possibility, and we ultimately realized we don't want anybody else included. And I still have my desires. I still have a wandering eye, and I still am very much like interested in being with another woman. But for the sake of time, I just want to ask you one more question. So you love your partner.
Yes.
You're in love with her. You want to be with her. You guys want to be together for this life. At least for now is what it feels like. Yeah. So do you fall in love with other women? Or is it purely physical, purely...
No, I don't. I haven't. You know.
Is that a fear that you might fall in love with another woman when you unite with her sexually?
It's a fear theoretically where I'm like, I could. Thus far, I've not met anyone where I'm like, ooh, this could be something more. You know. And I think I'm able to be sexual with someone without the emotional attachment, which makes this possible, and so is my partner. But that's, that is there. I'm like, oh, what if I did fall for someone? That could break this. That could break what we're doing. And I've done that when I'm in monogamous relationships. Where I've fallen for someone without having to have sex with them.
Yeah, right.
You know? And it's broken the relationship. And so for me, it's actually not any safer to be in a closed relationship because I'm just going to find a way around. I'm either going to cheat or I'm just going to leave you. And this way I'm like, okay, at least it'll be a conversation. At least I'll be like, all right, I'm starting to see this person have feelings, and I'll talk to my partner about it and be like, what should we do about this, you know? And like that feels safer for me. But that fear is there. That like, or vice versa. What if she meets someone?
Right.
I can't control that. I do feel more polyamorous. Like I'm noticing, like, oh wow, I could have feelings for 2 people for sure, and I could be okay with her having feelings for 2 people. Like I don't know if I actually need to hold all that. You know. Like yeah. So. Until next time.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all that. I'm super intrigued, and I want to ask you so many more questions and hear more about it.
Maybe we'll have a round 3.
Yeah,
That's great.
Yeah.
I appreciate just hearing, like, one, I didn't know that, you know, about you and your partner, and just tracking for myself, like there's this part of me that, like, as you started to share, that like wanted to be like, well, no, that's the, and just be like, well, what is that part? That's fascinating. Why?
Yeah.
You know, like, because it's so charged. It's like it's such a personal thing that it's scary. It's threatening to have someone else be like, well, this is the way I found, and I'm like, and I think that's just that's how humans operate. There's like this like needing to like tear down that other one because it's like that threatens my thing. And just in the process of listening to you talk about it, it's just like, oh, there's so many ways. Yeah. There's so many ways to do this human thing. Yeah. And I can just appreciate that, like, you're engaging with your way.
Right.
And whether it's right or wrong isn't even like the right question. It's like
totally.
You're engaging with your path.
Right. Does this work for you?
Does this work for you? Yeah. And you're finding the places where it doesn't and where it does, and it's like, that's probably how I want. I mean, that's how I want to be operating, and like actually just curious of like, wow, your path is so different. Yeah. You found something that like feels true, and it is true for you, and it's different than mine.
It's different than yours. Yeah.
Oh.
And yet we still can connect, and it doesn't separate us.
Yeah.
It is so human when you say, I'm like, yeah, that's what we've been doing with religion forever. And belief systems.
Yeah.
Like,
and politics.
This is my way, and that's your way. Well, your way is wrong.
And
it's like, no, we could actually be connected.
Yeah.
And okay with each other's different ways and learn from them, you know. And
and
our struggles might be different, but they might also be pretty similar too. I'm like, actually, we're in different relationship styles, but like we're still in relationship. We're still like dealing with stuff and like
It's like that same like pushing against the boundaries that we've set in our relationship comes up.
Totally. Yes.
It's just we set the boundaries in different places, but like there's still that navigating of like I feel like I can't do
There's
everything.
No room in here.
I can't do everything I want to do, or like it's too loose, or it's like all that is it's all still very true. So finding those commonalities. Like,
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we can land it maybe right here. Yeah. This is I love this. Is amazing.
This is great.
What a thing.
Yeah. Thanks for coming back. Do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share?
I just really enjoyed my time. Yeah.
Wonderful. Me too.
Yeah, I feel like I'm always like, I learned something and I gained something from both of you. So thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Indeed. Same, man. It's a pleasure.
Let's keep it rolling.
Yeah.
Keep it rolling.
I mean, it doesn't take too much, I'm right there. It's coming back really just means walking across the thing.
And you've got the equipment, so we'll have to have you back.
I know. Yeah. All right. Cool.
All right.
Beautiful.
Cheers.
Till next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Thank you, guys.
Good stuff.